My parents abandoned me for my sibling years later. I invited them to dinner, but they chose his gift over me. Growing up, I always felt like an afterthought in my own family. My parents, Mark and Linda, weren't cruel or abusive, but they had a clear priority: my younger brother, Ryan. From the moment he was born, it was as if their world revolved around him, and I was just an extra piece that didn't quite fit. At first, I didn't mind. As a toddler, I adored my little brother. I was excited to have a sibling, someone to play with, someone to grow up alongside. But as we got older, I started noticing the difference in how we were treated. Ryan got more attention, more gifts, more affection. Whenever he cried, Mom and Dad were at his side instantly, while my own needs often took a back seat. If he wanted the last slice of pizza, he got it. If I got sick, I had to manage on my own, but if Ryan had even a minor fever, they'd rush him to the doctor. I tried not to let it bother me. Maybe that was just how it was with younger siblings, but everything changed when I was 7 years old. One evening, my parents sat me down in the living room. They spoke gently, their voices filled with forced smiles, but I could sense something was wrong. "Sweetheart," my mom began, holding my hand, "your grandparents have been missing you a lot. Wouldn't it be fun to stay with them for a while?" I blinked in confusion. "Stay with Grandma and Grandpa?" Dad nodded. "Yes, just for a little while. They'd love to have you. You can have sleepovers with them, and Grandma makes the best cookies, right?" I wasn't stupid. I could see past the sugary words. They weren't asking me, they were telling me something wasn't right. "Why?" I asked, my small voice trembling. Mom and Dad exchanged a glance. Finally, my dad sighed. "Ryan needs us, buddy. He's been having more health issues lately, and it's been hard balancing everything. We just think this will be best for everyone." There it was, the real reason. Ryan needed them. I didn't. I tried to be brave. I nodded, pretending I was okay with it. That night, I packed a small suitcase with my favorite toys and clothes, but my heart felt heavy. I didn't want to leave home. I didn't want to leave my parents, but I had no choice. I kept telling myself it was only for a little while, that soon my parents would come get me, hug me tight, and bring me back home. Days passed, then weeks, then months. The calls became less frequent, the visits grew shorter. Each time I asked, "When can I come home?" The answer was always the same: "Just a little longer, sweetheart." But a little longer never ended. My grandparents did everything they could to make me feel loved. They took me to the park, helped me with homework, celebrated my birthdays with homemade cakes. But no matter how much love they gave, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been discarded. By the time I turned 10, I stopped asking to go home. By 13, I stopped expecting my parents to visit. By 16, I realized the truth. I had never really been part of their family. I was an obligation, a burden they had quietly passed on to my grandparents. I watched from the sidelines as Ryan grew up with the childhood I had been denied. Through social media, I saw photos of my parents attending his school plays, throwing him lavish birthday parties, taking him on vacations. They were a happy family, just without me. It hurt. It always hurt. But over time, I learned to live with it. I channeled my pain into something productive. I focused on school, pushing myself to excel. I got straight A's, won academic competitions, and earned scholarships. And yet, despite everything, I still hoped that one day my parents would be proud of me, that one day they'd look at me and see me as their son again. By the time I reached my mid-20s, I was financially independent. I had a stable job, a beautiful apartment in the city, and a life I had built entirely on my own. But despite all my achievements, there was still an empty space in my heart where my parents should have been. One day, after much hesitation, I decided to reach out. Not because I needed them, but because I wanted to try, one last time, to reconnect. I planned a special dinner, something meaningful. I reserved a private dining room at an upscale restaurant, one that offered my parents' favorite cuisine. I arranged a 3-course meal, personalized gifts, and even prepared a speech, words I had held in my heart for years. This wasn't about proving anything. It wasn't about flaunting my success. It was simply a chance for us to sit together, talk, and maybe, just maybe, rebuild the bond that had been lost. For weeks, I looked forward to it. I imagined my parents walking in, surprised but touched by my efforts. I pictured us talking about old memories, laughing, reconnecting. I allowed myself to hope. The night of the dinner arrived. I got to the restaurant early, making sure everything was perfect. The table was set, the candles were lit, and I sat there, waiting with nervous excitement. Then I waited, and waited. 30 minutes passed, an hour. I checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls. Anxiety began creeping in. I texted my mom, no response. Then, finally, my phone buzzed. A message from my dad. "Sorry, son. We can't make it tonight. Ryan just got the new car we promised him, and we're celebrating with him. Let's reschedule soon." I stared at the words on the screen, reading them over and over. My hands clenched around the phone, my breath shallow. That was it? That was all I was worth to them? I had spent weeks planning this, hoping for one evening with them, and yet they had dropped me without hesitation. For Ryan. Again. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised, just numb. It was then, sitting alone in that elegant restaurant, that I finally accepted the truth. My parents were never going to change. No matter how much I achieved, no matter how much I reached out, I would always come second to Ryan. And at that moment, something inside me shifted. I was done. Done chasing after people who never truly saw me, done waiting for love that would never come. For the first time in my life, I realized I didn't need them. I had spent years seeking validation from people who had abandoned me long ago. But now? Now, I was ready to walk away. And for the first time, I knew exactly what I had to do next. I left the restaurant that night feeling both empty and free. The realization hit me hard. No matter what I did, no matter how successful I became, my parents would never see me the way I wanted them to. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop waiting for them to change. The next morning, I made a decision that had been a long time coming. I would step away from them entirely. No more reaching out, no more trying to be part of their lives. It was time to focus on myself and the people who truly cared about me. But before I could fully close that chapter, I needed closure. A few days later, I called my mom. She picked up immediately, her voice cheerful. "Hey, sweetheart, I'm so sorry about the other night. Things were just crazy with Ryan's new car." I cut her off. "Mom, do you even realize how much that hurt me?" There was silence on the other end. "For years, I've been trying to be part of this family. I planned that dinner because I wanted to reconnect with you and Dad. But you didn't even think twice before choosing Ryan over me. Again." She sighed. "Honey, it's not like that. You know Ryan has always needed more attention. It's just the way things are." I felt a strange sense of calm as I responded, "No, Mom, that's the way you made it. You chose to push me aside, and I let you. But not anymore." Her voice wavered. "What are you saying?" "I'm done," I said simply. "I'm done chasing after you and Dad. I have my own life, my own happiness, and I won't waste any more time begging for a place in yours." I could hear the shock in her silence. Maybe for the first time she realized how much she had taken me for granted, or maybe she still didn't understand. Either way, I wasn't waiting for an answer. "I wish you and Ryan the best," I said before hanging up. And just like that, I felt lighter. In the weeks that followed, I focused on myself. I reconnected with my grandparents, the only real parental figures I had ever known. I spent time with friends who truly valued me, and slowly I healed. One day, I received a text from my dad. It was short. "Can we talk?" For a brief moment, I considered it, but then I realized I didn't need their validation anymore. I had spent my entire life trying to earn something they were never willing to give. I smiled, deleted the message, and moved on. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more watching videos.